Have you ever brushed past a stranger so easily, only to find out later they were the one person who remembered you when the world forgot? That question hung in the air at exactly 7:06 a.m. on a chilly Nashville morning. Before we continue, please tell us, where in the world are you tunning in from? We love seeing how far our stories travel. We love you to subscribe our channel for more interesting single dad stories. The street buzzed with early commuters, heels clicking, buses hissing, coffee machines screaming for mercy. On the corner of Pine and 4th sat a beat-up food truck painted in sun-faded yellows and oranges. The name Sunrise Bites was written in crooked white letters like someone had done it with hope instead of money. Caleb Walker stood in line, hands buried in the pockets of his navy coat. His phone buzzed nonstop with emails marked urgent, but he ignored them. For once, he just wanted something real. Hot coffee, greasy food, silence. He looked tired, not didn't sleep well tired, more like carrying years of pressure tired. Just as he stepped forward, a woman's voice rang out from inside the truck. "All right, folks, heads up. We've got one breakfast wrap left." Caleb opened his mouth. "I'll take..." "Actually," she cut in gently, stepping into view, "he was here first." She nodded toward an elderly man behind Caleb, wearing a navy cap and leaning on a cane. Caleb blinked and turned. The old man looked just as surprised. "No worries, miss," Caleb said quickly. The woman smiled, not fake, not sweet, just firm. "Rules are rules. First come, first served." She turned back to the grill like that was the end of it. Caleb stood there, stunned. No recognition, no special treatment, no hesitation. That almost never happened. "Well," Caleb chuckled under his breath, "guess I got humbled before breakfast." Without looking at him, she replied, "Doesn't matter if you're rich, broke, or famous. Everybody waits their turn here." He laughed. A real one, damn. That hit different. She finally turned around and handed him a plain paper cup of coffee. "This I can do, no charge." Their fingers brushed. Warm, real, something in Caleb's chest shifted. She didn't look impressed. She didn't flirt. She didn't care, and that's when he said it, quietly, barely louder than the steam rising from the cup. "Still remember me?" She froze for half a second, then frowned. "Sorry," he smiled like it didn't matter. "Never mind." She shrugged and turned to the next customer. She had no idea who he was. She also didn't know that years ago, outside a cold shelter with nothing but a sandwich and a napkin, she'd saved his life. And tomorrow, he was coming back. Because the next morning, she would joke with him like a stranger, and never realize the man in line was the boy she once fed when he had nothing left. What if someone learned your coffee order before learning your name, and somehow that felt safer? The next morning, Caleb Walker came back. Same corner, same food truck, same quiet chaos of Nashville waking up. But this time he stood farther back in line, hands relaxed, phone still silent in his pocket like it didn't exist. Inside Sunrise Bites, Natalie moved fast, flipping eggs, wiping counters, calling out orders like a pro. Her blonde hair was tied up in a messy bun, apron already dusted with flour and confidence. She didn't notice him at first. When she did, her lips twitched. "You stalking my coffee now?" she called out. A couple people in line laughed. Caleb raised his hands in surrender. "Hey, I plead innocent. Your caffeine just hits different." She poured a cup without asking. Black, one sugar, he blinked. "You remembered," she shrugged. "I remember what matters." That stuck with him. He paid, stepped aside, and stayed longer than necessary, pretending to check emails while watching how she worked. She tied a kid's shoelace, slipped an extra roll to a man in a wheelchair, hummed softly while cleaning the grill like it was therapy. "You never order food," she said suddenly, glancing up at him. He hesitated. "Guess I'm not a breakfast guy," she snorted. "That's a crime in this city. I'll take my chances." She leaned forward, squinting. You always hesitate like you want to order, but chicken out. He smiled, caught. Maybe. Fear of commitment, she teased. Something like that. Their banter became a thing. By day 3, she greeted him with morning mystery man. By day 5, she said, you got a name, or should I keep calling you coffee only? Caleb, he said finally. She nodded. Natalie, no last names, he liked that. Over the next week, he learned her rhythms. She learned his silences. He noticed how she stiffened when someone raised their voice. She noticed how his smile faded when business calls came through. You okay? She asked one morning. Yeah, he lied automatically. She gave him a look. That wasn't convincing, he laughed. You always this blunt. Only before 9 a.m. he found himself lingering, helping wipe tables, holding doors, feeling normal. One night, alone in his penthouse, Caleb opened a small wooden box he hadn't touched in years. Inside, old receipts, a broken keychain, and a faded napkin with crooked handwriting. Don't forget you have a future. He closed his eyes. Across town, Natalie sat on her apartment floor, sorting through keepsakes. Old photos, camp bracelets, and at the bottom, a napkin. Same words, her breath caught. Why do you feel familiar? She whispered into the quiet. Neither of them said it yet. But the past was knocking. Because the very next day, a sudden storm would force them under the same shelter, and one question from Caleb would bring memories neither of them were ready to face. What if the smallest act of kindness you barely remember became the reason someone survived? The storm hit out of nowhere. One minute Nashville was gray and moody. The next, boom. Thunder cracked like the sky had snapped, and rain came down hard, drenching the streets in seconds. People scattered. Umbrellas popped open like panic buttons. Natalie cursed under her breath and rushed outside, fighting with a stubborn folding table that refused to collapse. Of course, she muttered, rain soaking through her hoodie. Of all days. Hey, let me help. She turned, startled. Caleb stood there, holding a large black umbrella over both of them, already drenched himself. His jacket was dark with rain, hair plastered to his forehead. You didn't have to, she said. He grabbed the table anyway. Too late now. They worked fast, folding chairs, securing bins, locking the truck. When it was done, they ducked under the overhang, breathing hard, rain pounding above them like a drum roll. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Caleb said quietly, "Can I ask you something kind of weird?" She smirked. That's my brand. Go for it, he hesitated. Do you think one moment can change someone's entire life? Natalie leaned against the truck, thinking. Depends. On what? How real it was, he nodded slowly. Like if someone was at rock bottom. Kid alone, and someone showed them kindness for no reason, you think that sticks? Her expression softened. Yeah, I think that kind of thing stays forever. His voice dropped. I was 10, living in a shelter, cold, hungry, mad at the world. Natalie stiffened, heart skipping. There was this girl, he continued. She sat next to me like it wasn't a big deal, split her sandwich, didn't ask questions. Natalie's throat went dry. She wrote something on a napkin and handed it to me before she left. He met her eyes. It said, "Don't forget you have a future." The world tilted. Natalie felt like the rain had stopped, but it hadn't. It was just her heart pounding too loud to hear anything else. I kept it, he said softly. All these years. She couldn't breathe because she remembered the shelter, the boy with clenched fists. The napkin she'd scribbled on because she didn't know what else to give. That girl, Caleb said, voice barely steady, had no idea she saved me. Silence wrapped around them. Finally, Natalie whispered, Caleb. He waited. She shook her head, tears mixing with rain. I think I was that girl. His breath hitched. They stared at each other, the truth heavy and electric between them. 2 lives, 1 napkin, 1 moment that never let go. Because just when their pasts finally collide, the world is about to find out who Caleb really is, and it will shatter everything they just rebuilt. What happens when the one secret that made you feel human finally explodes in public? The answer came with a camera flash. Then another. Then the sharp screech of tires pulling up way too fast to be normal. Natalie barely had time to wipe her hands on her apron when a black SUV slammed to a stop at the curb. Doors flew open. People poured out, microphones, cameras, phones already rolling. Caleb Walker, Mr. Walker, is it true you've been hiding in plain sight? CEO of Walker Innovations, why the disguise? Natalie froze. Walker. Her stomach dropped straight through the pavement. Caleb stepped forward instantly, placing himself between her and the cameras like a shield. His voice stayed calm but tight. Back up. This is private property. A reporter shoved a mic closer. Are you pretending to be a regular guy to flirt with a food truck worker? That's when Natalie snapped out of it. Wait, what? Her voice shook. She looked at him, really looked. The tailored posture, the confidence he tried to hide. The name that suddenly connected 1,000 dots. You're that Caleb Walker, she whispered. The billionaire. He turned to her, panic flickering across his face. Natalie, I can explain. Her hands trembled. So the coffee jokes, the late-night grilled cheese, you listening to me talk about my brother. It was real, he said fast. All of it was real. Then why didn't you tell me? She shot back. The cameras ate it up. Phones lifted higher. This wasn't news, it was entertainment. Because the second people know who I am, he said, voice cracking, they stop seeing me. Silence. Then Natalie laughed, but there was zero humor in it. Congratulations, you got your wish. I didn't see you at all. She turned and stepped back into the truck. Nat, please, he called after her. The door slammed shut. Inside, the smell of food suddenly felt wrong, like it belonged to a life that wasn't hers anymore. Outside, Caleb stood frozen, cameras flashing like fireworks. But he didn't see any of them. All he saw was the woman who once saved him walking away. The next morning, Sunrise Bites didn't open. No sizzling bacon, no laughter. No Natalie. A handwritten sign hung on the locked gate, closed until further notice. Natalie sat on her apartment floor, staring at her laptop. A listing was open. For sale, food truck, needs love. Lucas padded into the kitchen, rubbing his eyes. Are we not cooking today? She swallowed hard. Not today, baby. But Fridays are Mama's melt day. That did it. She pulled him into a hug, tears spilling freely. I know. Lucas rested his head on her shoulder. Did someone hurt you? She nodded. Across the city, Caleb sat alone in his glass office, suit untouched, phone buzzing nonstop. He ignored it all. From his drawer, he pulled out the napkin. Don't forget you have a future. His hands shook. He had built the future she told him to believe in, and somehow still lost her. Because Caleb isn't done yet. And the next move he makes won't be behind cameras. It'll be the most honest risk of his life. What happens when the one thing you've always relied on, power, money, influence, means absolutely nothing? Caleb Walker learned the answer in silence. The kind that fills a room so loudly it feels like pressure in your chest. Sunrise Bites stayed dark. No morning line, no laughter, no Natalie. For the first time in years, Caleb skipped meetings. He ignored investors. He canceled interviews. Headlines screamed about his mysterious disappearance, but none of that mattered. Because the only person who ever saw him without the mask was gone. He drove himself that morning. No driver, no security. Just him, gripping the steering wheel like it was the only thing keeping him upright. He parked outside the fenced lot where the food truck now sat, quiet and forgotten. Natalie stood there already. She was staring at the truck, arms folded tight like she was saying goodbye to a friend. He approached slowly. I'm not here to explain. She didn't turn. Good, I'm not in the mood for billionaire apologies. I'm here to listen. That made her pause. I lied, he said, not about who I am, but about being brave enough to be honest. She faced him now, eyes sharp. You let me believe I mattered without knowing the whole truth. You mattered before you knew, he replied. You mattered when I was nobody. Her jaw clenched. Then why does it hurt so bad now? Because this time she had something to lose. He took out a folder, not flashy, not branded, just paper. She scoffed. What's this, a check? No, he held it out. A promise. Reluctantly, she opened it. Plans, numbers, locations, Sunrise Bites expansion proposal. 5 locations, her recipes, her name, her control. At the bottom, 51% ownership, Natalie Quinn. She looked up, stunned. You're giving me majority. Yes. Why? Because love isn't owning, he said quietly. It's offering. Silence. Then he did something no one expected. He dropped to one knee, not with a ring, with a spoon engraved with her grandmother's name. Natalie, he said, voice unsteady, be my partner in business, in life. In truth, tears welled as she laughed through them. Only if you never pretend again. Never. She pulled him up and held him like home. But just when love seems healed, Natalie must decide if forgiveness is enough to build a future together. Is saying sorry really enough when trust has already cracked? 6 months passed, not fast, not easy, but real. Sunrise Bites came back first as 1 truck, then 2, then 3. Same food, same warmth, same handwritten chalkboard. Natalie made sure of that. No corporate gloss, no fake smiles. Caleb kept his promise. No disguises, no half-truths, no hiding. He showed up early, cleaned grills, burned toast, took jokes like a champ. You flip that egg like it owes you money, Natalie teased one morning. Hey, I'm learning, he shot back. Growth mindset. Lucas sat nearby, headphones on, coding on a tablet. Caleb had earned his trust slowly, never pushing, never forcing conversation, just being there. That mattered. Still, Natalie hesitated sometimes. Love didn't erase memory. She watched how Caleb handled pressure, how he treated people when no cameras were around. One night she asked quietly, what if this gets too big, too loud? Caleb didn't dodge it. Then we slow it down or walk away, you come first. She studied him, then nodded. The gala invitation arrived a week later. Nashville Small Business Honors. Keynote speaker, Caleb Walker. Natalie almost didn't go. The ballroom glittered with chandeliers and quiet judgment. She stayed near the exit just in case. Then his name was announced. Caleb stepped up, no tie, tired eyes, honest posture. I was supposed to talk about leadership, he said, but I'd rather talk about truth. The room stilled. I lied to someone who mattered. Not to manipulate, but because I was afraid to be seen. His eyes found her. I don't deserve forgiveness, he said, but I'll spend my life earning it. No applause, just truth. After he walked to her, not rushing, not demanding. She took a breath. You meant every word. I did. She slipped her hand into his. Then let's build something honest. Because the next morning, Caleb has one final question that will change everything forever. What if the thing you're most scared to believe in is the only thing that can finally set you free? The morning after the gala, Nashville woke up slow and golden. Sunrise spilled across empty streets like a promise. Natalie unlocked the storage lot where the original Sunrise Bites truck sat, dusty but familiar. She hadn't planned to cook. She just needed to breathe near the place where everything started. The lock clicked open. You always get here early. She froze. Caleb stood a few feet away. No suit, no assistance, just jeans, worn sneakers, and nerves written all over his face. I didn't want to surprise you, he said. I just needed to be here. She crossed her arms. You have a habit of showing up when things get complicated. He smiled weakly. Guess I learned from the best. They stood in silence, the weight between them no longer sharp, just heavy with possibility. I keep thinking about that napkin, Natalie said finally. How I wrote those words without knowing who they were for. Caleb nodded. And I built my whole life trying to prove they were true. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a folded document. "I'm stepping back," her eyes widened. "From the company, from the spotlight," he clarified. "New leadership. I stay involved, but my life isn't owned by headlines anymore." She studied him. "That's a big move. So is love." He took a breath, then did something that made her laugh through tears. He dropped to one knee. "Again." "Okay," she said quickly. "You already used that card." He chuckled. "This time it's different." He held out the same engraved spoon. "No ring," he said, "because I don't want you saying yes to a symbol. I want you saying yes to a life." Her voice shook. "Caleb, be my partner, my equal. My home," tears spilled freely now, "only if you promise the truth every day." He nodded. "Every day." She pulled him up and kissed him, soft, real, unfiltered. The past finally loosened its grip. Because 6 months later, their story comes full circle in the most unexpected way. 6 months later, the morning air in Nashville smelled like fresh bread and coffee. The tiny chapel doors stood open, sunlight spilling inside like it had been invited. Just across the street, the newest Sunrise Bites cafe buzzed quietly. No grand opening banners, no press, just locals lined up like always. Caleb stood at the altar, nervous as hell. His tie was crooked. His hands wouldn't stop fidgeting. James, his former driver, now best man, leaned in and whispered, "Relax, boss, she's not running." Caleb exhaled. "Still feels unreal." Then the music shifted. Natalie stepped inside. No bouquet, no dramatic entrance, just her soft ivory dress, hair loose, glowing like someone who had fought hard for happiness and finally won. In her hands was the engraved spoon, tied with a thin ribbon. Lucas sat in the front row, clapping way too early, wearing a suit 2 sizes too big and smiling like he'd solved a puzzle no one else could. The guests were a mix of worlds, food truck regulars sitting beside executives. Mr. Hargrove, Rosa, the construction workers, board members who'd learned, finally, that success didn't always wear a suit. When Natalie reached Caleb, she smirked. "You clean up okay for a billionaire." He laughed, eyes wet. "You still terrify me." The efficient smiled. "Do you, Caleb Walker, take Natalie Quinn to be your wife, your partner, and your daily reminder that humility matters?" "I do," Caleb said. "Every day, no exceptions." "And do you, Natalie Quinn, take Caleb Walker to be your husband, your co-founder, and your emotionally confused CFO?" She laughed through tears. "I do, even if he still burns toast." Their kiss wasn't perfect. It was real. The kind that comes from forgiveness, not fantasy. Later, at the reception inside the cafe, the walls told their story. Framed napkins, handwritten thank yous. Photos of the original food truck. And at the center, one faded square of paper. "Don't forget you have a future." Above it, the sign read, "Sunrise Bites, a love story in every dish." Caleb raised a glass. "I built a future because someone once believed I deserved one." Natalie squeezed his hand. "And I learned that kindness always finds its way back." They didn't need applause. They had home. Because some love stories don't start with fireworks. They start with a sandwich, a napkin, and the courage to come back when it hurts. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe and return to our channel for more life-changing, emotional, and heartwarming stories.